So point A and point B could actually have different distances between them. You're already beginning to see and to adjust to that possibility that these things can be as true as they are false. They can be as different as they are the same. They can be the same and different at the same time. Now, when we consider the parents and the children, when we actually declare that parents are closer to their children than children are to parents, you would argue and even contest that pronouncement, because if you are to measure physically the distance between them, it should be exactly the same. But when you look closer and take into account other factors, many factors in fact, you would find indeed that the distance between them is generally never the same. Maybe the physical difference when they're standing on a level playing field, level ground, on the same floor. If you were to take your measuring tape, the distance will be the same. But that's not all there is to it. Actually, there's much more to it than meets the eye. When we probe further, as we interrogate the distance, we find that the distance between the parents and the children can be measured in many different ways. You can measure that distance. More importantly, relationally, emotionally, even in terms of the patterns, points of contact, memories, focus, just to mention a handful of the perspectives from which you could consider the distance between them. When we say that parents are closer to their children than children are to parents, we could maybe make an illustration. If, for example, the child is a baby, perhaps a toddler, obviously the parent is an adult, and we take the two and place them in cages. place the parent, whether it's the father or the mother, in one cage, and the baby, boy or girl, in another cage. And the distance between the cages is perhaps 3/4 of a meter. Let's allow that kind of separation, 3/4 of a meter. They are facing each other in those cages. The parent on one side, the baby on the other. Now, the distance is the same, 3/4 of a meter, either from the other. The baby is looking at the parent and gets excited, or would want something from the parent. The baby is in a cage, and they can stick out their hand to reach for the parent, and the baby's hand is stuck out from the cage, and it can only reach maybe halfway or a quarter of the way through to the parent. Huh? How does the baby feel? Looking at the parent, stretching out the hand, trying to reach for the parent, and can only stretch out for a quarter of a meter or less. Meanwhile, when we look at the parent from the cage, stretching out the parent's hand from the cage to the baby, they will be able to actually reach the baby, tickle the baby, and the baby will start laughing, giggling, responding. They could massage the baby. They could wipe off the tears of the baby. The parent's hand can reach the baby. And in the minds, and in fact, the reality as far as efforts are concerned, would the baby trying to reach out to the parent to touch the father or the mother and failing to reach to the parent, would they think that they are close to the parent? And when we switch over to the parent, stretching out the hand to reach for the baby and succeeding in doing so, would the parent think that they are far away from the baby? Would you not actually conclude that considered separately, even though the distance is the same, but the bottom line, would it not actually prove or show that the baby is far from the parent, but the parent is close to the baby? In other words, would we not be able to conclude quite clearly and without any possible doubt in our minds that the parent is closer to the baby than the baby is to the parent? Is it not possible, therefore, to draw such conclusions given such situations?